Hey guys, thanks for checking out Quick Sessions Podcast. My name is Garrett Terrio, coming to you from Timberline Fitness here in Houston, Texas. And today we're going to be talking about gut bacteria, or microbiome. And what it is are these different communities of bacteria, viruses, fungi, all this stuff that makes up your gut. And it's really complex. It's more complex than your actual body makeup, your actual genome itself. And it does a ton of different stuff. It helps with immune function. It's a line of defense against, other pathogens. It helps with nutrition, fat absorption, energy harvesting, energy storage, which of course lead to energy expenditure. It helps make that more efficient as you're working out. And there's a ton of stuff it does, but that's the basics for what we find important with the gut bacteria. And the other couple of things it does that I always find interesting is it affects your mood, which I thought was you wouldn't think that anything in your gut would affect your mood, but also helps with the absorption of vitamins and things like that. But this complex system, it does so much. We never think about gut health as being a determining factor in our health and wellness routine, but it really does a lot. Because imagine if you had a gut microbiome community that was out of whack. Well, certain things will digest foods one way, bad bacteria may digest it differently. You're talking about your gut affecting essentially the nutrients you absorb. How much weight you gain can be definitely correlated to that. In fact, one of the studies I was reading, getting ready for this podcast, was, they took an obese person's microbiome and put it in rats, and the rats gained weight immediately. So it goes to show you that, bad gut health can be the difference between, higher body fat percentage and lower body fat percentage. It may not be necessarily the difference between obese and not, but if it's borderline, sure. And the two big gut bacteria that do affect your weight gain, weight loss, the first one is called Prevotella. And what that does, it digests fiber and carbohydrates. And the other one is Bacteroidetes, which kind of fire up for people that eat more animal protein. That's a bigger part of their diet. So what that tells you is when this bacteria is more or less active, depending on your diet, that means it is a key player in things like inflammation, right? That can contribute to the weight gain. Insulin resistance, right? How much of the carbs you store instead of using as energy, which is something we're all probably real familiar with. And that's probably the most important for this discussion, the most important aspect of this gut bacteria. Because if changing whether you're insulin resistant or not is based on the makeup of your gut bacteria, well, that's something we can dive into and hopefully fix. Now, the only way to really change your gut bacteria makeup is through a long-term diet. So a little bit of a boring answer. It's the same answer as everything else when it comes to weight loss or weight gain. It's all about how you eat on a day-to-day basis. And this isn't as in-depth as a whole nother diet. But in general, the higher your fiber content in the foods you eat, the better it is for your gut, right? So whole grains, very important. Fruits and vegetables, all the stuff you should be eating anyway. Nuts and seeds, things like dark chocolate can help, and green tea, even red wine can be beneficial to your gut health. That's what you call polyphenol-rich foods, or kind of the indulgences. They don't want too much of, but there is some benefit for it. So many times people say, oh yeah, a glass of wine a day is healthy. It's like, well, kind of, but you don't even know why. You just heard it. What I just told you is why. Fermented foods, of course, like yogurt, people drink kombucha. Those are good for balancing out gut health. Now here's the big controversy, I'll say. Probiotics. You see it on all kinds of stuff. People always take probiotics. And this fact is really why I decided to even do a podcast on gut bacteria. Do not just take probiotics without the recommendation from a doctor. I say that because it's kind of like too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Your gut is balancing all of this bacteria and fungi and all that stuff that sounds nasty. Introducing too much probiotics puts it very out of whack. And being balanced is more important than, I have more good probiotics in my system. Because number one, any kind of imbalance is normally bad, right? And secondly, if it's too clogged up with good bacteria, the stuff you need to be working a certain way just won't. I mean, think about it as, and I'm sure this is not 100% scientifically correct, but, let's say you have a loaf of bread and you use that to eat peanut butter jelly, turkey, and all that. Well, that's great, but if you have 10 loaves of bread, you're not going through those 10. You're going to waste some of them anyway, right? You're going to throw it away because they get moldy and all that. So you don't need such an excess of probiotics in order to make your gut health better. Now, if the doctor has you do it, of course, but you can ask any gastrointestinal doctor, just self-medicating is a little intense of a term, but just taking all those probiotics on your own is something that really can jack you up. And in fact, the only time they'll really be prescribed is if you're on antibiotics or something like that, or an imbalance has been detected inside your gut. Now, the foods that we went over, the good foods, all the fibrous foods that are good for your gut health, which, by the way, about 20 to 25 grams of fiber a day. Most people don't get it. I myself didn't get it up until I learned that little fact and really looked at how much fiber I was getting on a daily basis. But the things that can hurt your gut bacteria are the common things you could guess, right? Sugary foods, high-fat foods, high-saturated fat foods, and artificial sweeteners. Like I said, anything artificial you put in your body is just going to throw your gut off. That's just kind of how it works. And it's common sense to an extent, right? Of course, you put something foreign in your body's not going to respond as if something non-foreign was in it. So to sum it all up, the gut health isn't something we think about a ton, nor do we really need to think about it a ton. When you're born and in the infancy stages of your life, that's when a lot of the makeup is getting configured. And like I said, outside of a disease or antibiotics or something like that, based on your diet is where your gut health is going to keep itself in balance. And it doesn't take a lot of outside reinforcement, I should say, with the probiotics and all that, to keep your gut health in check. That being said, the number one thing you can do to just guarantee you have good gut health is keep the fiber up. Oatmeal is one that's very common, everybody takes, with raisins, any of those fruits that are high fiber. Whole grains, like I said, it's all the common stuff. Fruit and vegetables, all the common stuff that you should be eating anyway. So if you have a well-rounded diet, you're creating a good environment for your gut bacteria anyway. So there's nothing you need to really think about. That being said, if you're the type of person that's big on sugars and, drink Diet Cokes all the time, you really need to get that in check. I'm not sure if you can get your actual gut bacteria checked to say, hey, you need more or less. I'm sure you can, but just know if you do take in that stuff, you are hurting your gut bacteria, which can affect your weight gain and even affect your mood. And it doesn't mean like, my stomach hurts, I'm in a bad mood. Just in general, the messages it's sending to your brain are negative ones. So eat a bunch of fiber, keep the gut in check. Probiotics, take it easy, don't eat all that stuff. You can eat probiotic encouraging foods, right? Like the fermented stuff and all that. But just go and get probiotics on your own. Number one, you shouldn't be self-medicating anyway. But number two, it's probably doing you more harm than good. I trained 2 GI docs and it frustrates them to all hell. So that's about it for today, guys. Hope you learned a little something. This subject may not really affect many people checking it out, but now you know. All right, guys, catch you next time.